Welcome to this video about argumentation. Let's start with the criteria to evaluate deductive arguments. An argument is a set of sentences called premises that give us reasons to believe in a sentence that is the conclusion of the argument. In some arguments, the premises are intended to guarantee the truth of the conclusion. These are called deductive arguments. A good deductive argument gives us compelling reasons to believe its conclusion. After all, it guarantees its conclusion. However, not all deductive arguments are good. We need to think about different things to decide whether to believe or not the conclusion of a deductive argument. First, it must guarantee its conclusion. This means that the conclusion can't be false when the premises are true. When this condition is satisfied, we say that the argument is valid. Keep in mind that this is a special use of the word valid. In everyday life, we use this word to say that something is good, convincing, or reasonable. For example, if you disagree with someone and that person answers something that seems reasonable to you, you could say, "Well, I think your point is valid." Although this use of the word is frequent, it is not what it means in this context. When philosophers say that an argument is valid, they mean something more specific. If the premises are true, the conclusion must be true as well. To say that an argument is valid is to say something about the relationship between the premises and the conclusion, namely that if the premises are true, the conclusion has to be true. But this doesn't mean that the premises or the conclusion are true. For example, premise 1, Shakira was born in London. Premise 2, all people who are born in London like tea. Conclusion, therefore, Shakira likes tea. These premises are false. Shakira wasn't born in London. Not everyone who is born in London likes tea. Nevertheless, the argument is valid because if the premises were true, then the conclusion would have to be true as well. Since the premises are false, even if the argument is valid, it doesn't give you a good reason to believe in the conclusion. When a deductive argument is valid and its premises are true, we say that the argument is sound. As happens with the word valid, the word sound has a meaning in everyday life. But when we call an argument sound in this context, we mean the very specific thing that the argument is valid and its premises are true. Here is an example of a sound argument. Premise 1, Shakira was born in Barranquilla. Premise 2, all people who are born in Barranquilla are born in Colombia. Conclusion, therefore, Shakira was born in Colombia. So, before deciding whether or not to believe in the conclusion of a deductive argument, you have to determine if the argument is sound. This in turn requires determining if the argument is valid, and, subsequently, if its premises are true. But how do we know if an argument is valid and its premises are true? Some cases are clear, but that is not always the case. One way to know if an argument is valid is to see if we can find a counterexample. A counterexample is a case, either real or imaginary, in which the premises are true and the conclusion is false. For example, premise 1, classical musicians appreciate opera. Premise 2, Shakira is a pop artist, not a classical musician. Conclusion, therefore, Shakira doesn't appreciate opera. Suppose that Shakira has listened to classical music since she was a child, and loves Mozart's masterpiece, Don Giovanni. Well, Shakira appreciates opera in this case. The conclusion would be false. Even when the premises are true, it is still true that classical musicians appreciate opera and that Shakira is not a classical musician. This counterexample shows that the argument is not valid. For this reason, even if the premises are true, the argument doesn't provide reasons to believe its conclusion. Let's recap. If we don't know if the premises of an argument are true, even if it is valid, we don't have enough reasons to believe its conclusion. When we know that an argument is valid but we do not know if its premises are true, we only have a conditional reason to accept its conclusion. If we later knew that the premises were true, then, we would have to accept the conclusion. And how do we know if the premises of an argument are true? This is the kind of thing for which logic and philosophy may not be enough. To know if the premises of an argument are true, we have to investigate further. This is one of the reasons why a good critical thinker requires more than just logical ability. Knowledge of the real world is also necessary. Unless you have all elements needed to know if the premises of the argument are true, you should resist the conclusion. Remember, even if you were the brightest being, and knew that the argument is valid, you would not have good reasons to accept its conclusion without more investigation. The more knowledge we have, the better we will be at evaluating deductive arguments. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more videos.